Hey, what is up, YouTube? Your friendly neighborhood oTALKu Joe here, and we have a guest today, a friend of mine, Michael. Say hi.
Howdy, however you say hi in Japanese.
But I wanted to bring Michael on today here because we're going to talk about a series today called Rwby, and Michael is a very big fan, so I wanted to have some help and make sure that everything I say is legitimate and it makes sense.
If it isn't, I'm gonna kill him in his sleep.
Okay, well then there you go. Other than that, so as usual, before anything else, check out my episode 0 for any technicalities. I don't mean any copyright infringement, anything like that. But other than that, so today we're going to be talking about Rwby. So just to get into some basic info, Rwby is an American anime series created by Monty Oum for Rooster Teeth Productions. The first episode was released on the Rooster Teeth website on July 18th, 2013, following an exclusive screening at RTX. Which, RTX, what does that stand for, Michael?
That is Rooster Teeth Expo.
Rooster Teeth Expo. The second volume premiered on July 4th, 2014 at Rooster Teeth Expo, and to the general public on July 24th, 2014, followed by the third volume on roosterteeth.com on October 24th, 2015. The series includes such notable voice acting talents as Vic Mignogna from he was Broly from Dragon Ball Z, Laura Bailey, Maka Albarn from Soul Eater, Travis Willingham, who was Roy Mustang from Full Metal Alchemist, Elizabeth Maxwell, who was Shwala Gorgon from Soul Eater Not, Gray Haddock, who was Sanosuke from Rurouni Kenshin, and Michael Jones, who was Sting from Fairy Tail. Those are some notable roles and series that these people were in. The series Rwby is also in the process of getting a Japanese dub that will include such famous Japanese seiyus as Sayori Hayami, who played Miyuki Shiba in The Irregular at Magic High School, Yoko Hikasa, who played Freya, Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon, Yu Shimamura, who played Annie in Shingeki no Kyojin, Ami Koshimizu, who played Ryuko in Kill la Kill, who I'm very excited about, and Megumi Toyoguchi, who played Revy in Black Lagoon, and Aya Suzaki, who also played Mako in Kill la Kill again. So, as a quick series synopsis, the story is focused, Rwby is focused on students of a world called Remnant, who go to a school known as Beacon to become hunters and huntresses to keep the world safe from creatures known as Grimm. The story focuses on the 4 girls of Team Rwby, spelled R-W-B-Y, consisting of Ruby Rose, Weiss Schnee, Blake Belladonna, and Yang Xiaolong, and their daily lives as well as their challenges as budding huntresses. Now, just as a note, I always like to include whether a series is safe for children or not, and this series is rated about PG-13. There are certain parts that would need some guidance, but sometimes it's also very safe. It's very child-friendly. So on to a actual review. For genre, Rwby has certain parts where it transitions between genres. It has aspects of adventure, comedy, drama, fantasy, and action, but is, for the most part, mainly focused on the action and battles of the series. As for the soundtrack, the backing tracks of Rwby have a mix of different genres for background music, but it mainly focuses on rock, especially the opening themes of each season. Talking about animation, the animation in Rwby is unique in that you have anime-styled characters rendered 3-dimensionally. The animation itself is smooth. Now, if you are a typical or old-school anime fan, it may take a few episodes to grow on you. However, when it does, you'll truly be able to appreciate the series for what it is. Now, talking about animation, still the fight sequences are very flashy and action-packed and are really, really fun to watch. Now, for plot development, the plot of Rwby, of the show itself, develops slowly during the first 2 seasons. The show starts out as a sort of slice-of-life, happy-go-lucky kind of story, where we gradually meet the main characters and side characters with gradual character development. However, it is often hinted that there is something sinister and kind of dark going on in the backdrop of the story, and these hints are dropped more and more as the series progresses. Now, here's where I would like to reference Michael, because I've only watched up to the second volume of Rwby, and Michael is in the process of watching the third. I'm waiting for it to finish so I can just binge it. But Michael, like, we've seen these hints being dropped that there's some sinister things going on in the background. In Volume 3, has any of that come to fruition? Is, what's going on? Can you give us a vague idea, at least, without any spoilers?
It's like taking candy from a baby.
So, with that, from what I can reason, is that, the first 2 seasons, we've developed these connections to the characters. We've developed, attachment, and now it sounds like that sounds kind of sinister. That sounds foreboding. So I'm supposing that, like, metaphorically, the shit has hit the fan.
Yeah, shit gets real. Shit gets very real. Very fast.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I'm looking forward to Volume 3 then, for sure.
Say that now.
That doesn't sound good. That really doesn't sound good, but I have no problem with that. I'm interested to see what happens. So, as for notable songs, I usually include a segment for notable songs, but all I would like to say is the opening themes of each volume of Rwby are very fun to listen to. I personally enjoy them, and if you enjoy them, I highly suggest checking out the soundtrack and checking out the bands that have made those songs. So, with all the basic information out of the way, I would also like to include a segment for Monty Oum. February 1st this year is his 1-year anniversary of passing. And he was a big influence to a lot of people. He was a great creator, and he even inspired Michael here, very much, which is why I have him on today, not only to talk about Rwby, but to talk about Monty. So, with that, Michael, is there anything you would like to say?
Well, where to begin? It's, if you had to summarize Monty in a word, it was unique.
Okay. So, I admittedly don't know too much about him, but
That's why I'm here, to school you.
Yeah, I do know that he was
like flashy nipple teacher from Kill la Kill.
So I do know that he was a very creative person, and that he had a lot of respect among his peers in his team at Rooster Teeth. So and I know he's very inspirational. Would you say that his team, as of right now, are doing a good job carrying on his legacy when it comes to Rwby?
For sure, they're doing a fantastic job. It's in a way, it's kind of like he never left, so that's nice.
So they hold him in high respect, and I just want to say as well. I'm sorry. I just want to say as well that another reason why I have Michael on here is that he's a big member of the Rooster Teeth community. You've been around. I believe if I remember correctly, Michael, you said you've been around since almost like I believe Rooster Teeth's beginnings, and you've been a big fan.
Yeah, I've invested a lot of time into this community. I've seen it grow exponentially, especially in the past few years with the help of Rwby. Rwby's really opened up doors, not only for the company itself, but for fans like us and just web content in general.
Well, and I did want to talk about that as well, Michael, because first of all, the reason why I said that is because I do want to make sure I give you some credentials here. Obviously, just having another fan on of the show is great, especially a fan who kind of knows, what's going on in the series, who has technical knowledge of the series. But also I wanted to give you some credentials as a fan of Rooster Teeth itself. You didn't just become a fan yesterday of Rwby and I brought you on here. Rooster Teeth's workings. You're a big fan of it, so I want to make sure I give you those credentials. And then also I wanted to talk about how you were talking about the fans, and how you were talking about Rwby itself bringing a lot of attention to Rooster Teeth, because I wanted to talk about I noticed a lot of anime fans in general. A lot of cosplayers who usually cosplay anime, cosplaying as Rwby characters, and, Rwby getting a lot of attention from the anime, fandom, and not just in a good way, but also in a bad way. And one of the biggest things is the kind of feud. Yeah, the never-ending debate. That's actually a very good way to put it. The never-ending debate of, is Rwby an anime, or is it a cartoon or a web series? And I just wanted your opinion on that.
Well, if we wanted to go in full detail, we would need another episode.
That's very true.
But if you want to get down to the technicality and the brass tacks, it's been broadly advertised as an anime, but for what it is pretty much, in the technical aspect, it's a 3D web series, in the fact that it's not like your traditional anime or animation in general, where you have 2D figures moving across a three-dimensional plane. You have three-dimensional characters moving across a three-dimensional plane, and
I see where you're coming from. I definitely see where you're coming from. The reason why I want to ask you this is because I do have an opinion myself, and I do picture Rwby as an anime, despite all the debate, despite all the, different opinions based on it, is that I do view Rwby as an anime, simply because, I have a personal belief where we're looking at times shifting with a lot of different things, societally, entertainment-wise, and just all these different kind of shifts going on, and I don't see American anime as too much of a stretch.
I mean, American anime is like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of like, kind of how to put it, it's just like one of those things where it's like, stay away from that, because it's not really anime. But in reality, it's like, the thing with Rwby, and it's like there's people who consider it an anime, people who don't consider it an anime, and it's pretty split down the middle. But I think the problem is that just that regional bias. Just because it's not done in Japan, that doesn't make it an anime, even though you have fans like that who regard shows like The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra as American anime. But then they look at Rwby and say, oh, that's not an American anime, that's an American animation posing to be an anime. That's just inspired by anime, but it's not an actual anime.
That's an interesting way to put it. I mean, and I mean, it just comes down to me, like, how I was talking about, how times are changing, and I don't see it as so much of a stretch that, there can be an American anime, and I feel like what you're saying as well also kind of touches on, and I don't mean to plug my own kind of videos or nothing like that. I'm just simply talking about that I've talked passionately before about elitism in the anime world, in the anime fandom, and not only in the anime fandom. You're looking at elitism. There's plenty of elitism in, comic book fandom, all different kinds of, I want to say, nerd fandoms have this aspect of elitism where, just as an example, this Deadpool movie coming up, when I'm posting this video, the Deadpool movie will have not been released yet, but there's a lot of internet hype, a lot of social media hype over this Deadpool movie, and what a lot of reactions that people get is, that they're not real fans because they've just found out about Deadpool, because they've just watched the movie and they haven't read any of the comics, and they get that kind of scorn almost, where, oh, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't know it as well as I do for some reason. And I mean, I've talked about this before, But it just comes down to that instead of pushing people away with that kind of attitude, instead of saying, oh, well, you're not a real fan, because of this, that, and the other, instead of doing that, then that's counterproductive because you're pushing them away. You might as well educate them and bring them into your circle and say, well, look, okay, you watched the movie and, it's great that you appreciate it. Deadpool happens to be my favorite character or whatever. And it's like, and it's great that you think that he's great too. But here, let me show you some other ways that you can find out more about him. Maybe try out reading these comics. So instead of taking this offensive, almost attack-prone approach of just being very, very rude and very blatant, and driving people away from your cause, you could be open-minded and be more patient with newer fans and be able to bring them in. Now, how that goes back to this whole argument is Rwby and anime is we're looking at people who are arguing with each other over whether a show is a certain genre or not. Because that's basically what anime is. It is a genre of show. And we're arguing what genre this show is. When instead we could just, appreciate it for what it is together as fans. I mean, and I've said this before in the video, and I think pretty much anyone in any kind of nerd fandom can understand that we're in a fandom where you get picked on for liking what you like and nothing else. There's no other base of being picked on except like, oh, you like this certain genre, or oh, you like this, this kind of entertainment or this kind of media. Where as anime fans, as manga fans, as comic book fans, as, all this kind of thing, we're outcasts. Now, in more popular media, with all these, superhero movies coming out, it's becoming much more popular to be a superhero fan, where not as many people have a problem with it. But we as anime fans, we as manga fans, we are still faced with that problem because we don't have as much popular exposure as these comic book heroes do in films. And I feel like if we are subject to that, then it's unintelligent and just overall unproductive to subject each other to that treatment where, oh, Rwby isn't an anime, where you have a fan saying, oh, I think Rwby's an anime, and then you have someone else saying Rwby isn't an anime and you're stupid for thinking that. Like, that's mean, counterproductive, and you don't gain anything through that. There's no real concrete reason for that at the end of the day. So, I that's me personally. I just feel Rwby is an anime. Just the way I view it, the stylization, the storyline. There's plenty of popular tropes of a typical anime in Rwby. You have all these different types of characters that, are presented through popular anime, throughout anime's history. Since the beginning of anime, there have been a certain archetype of characters, and those archetypes are presented in Rwby. The stylization adds up. I heard this one quote at one point. It's like, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck, Now,
if it looks like an anime and it sounds like an anime, it's an anime.
Right. So, I mean, other than that, I would see Rwby as being, I would see Rwby as being an anime. And, whether, Monty Oum himself as the, creator of the series would approve of that notion or not, I don't know. But I just feel that it's an American anime to me, and that's all it is. And I don't mean any disrespect or any kind of, misunderstanding with that. I don't mean to, say that somehow my opinion is more relevant than someone who doesn't think that Rwby is an anime. I'm just saying, to me, when I watch it, I feel like I'm watching an anime.
Actually, yeah, and actually, to further on that, I actually do have a direct quote from Monty about that matter. And he goes to say, some people believe that Scotch needs to be made in Scotland. It's just like an American company can't make an anime. I think it's a very narrow way of seeing it. Anime is an art form, and to say only one country can make this art is wrong.
Okay, so then that kind of implies that when Monty was making Rwby, he had an anime in mind. He wasn't making a cartoon or a web series. He wanted to craft an American anime.
Right, and yes, and he wanted to make an American anime, but it's when people say it's not an anime, that's not in my personal opinion. That's not the right notion to take. You call it a web series, that's fine because that's
what it is.
It's an anime that's on the web. Therefore, whether it was an anime or not, it's on the web. It's a web series, but it is an anime. It's just different in the fact that it started out on the internet instead of TV like you see most traditional anime.
And then of course it's different in the fact that of region. It was created here in America, and as opposed to an Asian culture, it was created in America, so then it would be an American anime. Now, I do want to go back to something we said earlier to kind of further this point and in my eyes, drive it home. We've touched on earlier that Rwby is getting a Japanese dub, where Japan is actually importing Rwby, dubbing over it, and marketing it there. So, would you say that that's a confirmation, that that's a seal of approval from the Japanese media, that this is, in fact, an American anime?
Me personally, I would say yes, but I think the common notion people are going to have is that, that's just, it's like, I think people are going to have that notion as like, kind of like the same thing with the Five Nights at Freddy's games. It's like, that's just Japan wanting to capitalize on a popular cash grab. People are going to see it as a cash grab on Japan's part, when in reality, it's just Japan furthering and appreciating a masterpiece. And I proudly call Rwby a masterpiece, even though it does have its flaws, like every anime does. Even my favorite anime of all time, Gurren Lagann, has its flaws. It's still considered a masterpiece in my opinion. That's just an appreciation and wanting to expand it to higher levels than just it being in America, where it can only be enjoyed by people who speak English.
I agree.
So it's like people, because for the longest time, ever since the show came out, before it had a Japanese dub official, there were fans in Japan who were making their own Japanese dub of the show.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So it's like a fan. So like you have, and that's similar. It's like when you have a Japanese anime that's in Japanese, and then you have American fans over here like you and me, and we do a dub over, and it's a fan dub in English. It's the same concept. It's just instead of English people doing a fan dub of a Japanese anime, it's Japanese fans doing a fan dub of an English anime. Which I think it's such a new concept that it's going to take a while for people to grow onto it.
Yeah, I could definitely see where you're coming from with that. So, I mean, I did want to talk about as well, not to, disregard what we were, the whole time that we were just talking about, is Rwby an anime or not. But, I mean, we could really go on forever. I mean, there's points and counterpoints, and, really, no matter where you see these arguments on the internet, whether it be YouTube or forums or stuff like that, the points and counterpoints can go back and forth, and they really can just go on forever. And we could go on forever trying to prove our point as well. But, at this point in time, it's just better to, I think, move on and say, well, I think Rwby is an anime, you think Rwby is an anime, and that's how we view it. You know what I mean?
And it's just like, whether you see it as an anime or not, whatever, you're inclined to believe whatever you want to believe. Whether you like it or not, that's fine. It's not for everybody. Nothing in the world is for everybody. It's just me personally, and
And that goes back to elitism. It's just about we're trying to enjoy our fandom. We're trying to enjoy something that we find enjoyable. And someone trying to take that away from you, there's no real reason for it. There's no concrete reason to try to say, that, like I said before, oh, Rwby isn't an anime and you're stupid for thinking so. Like, there's no reason to even say that. If you don't think Rwby is an anime, like you said, that's fine. You're inclined to think however you want to think. Nothing is for everyone. But it's just about we're trying to enjoy something that we want to enjoy. And so...
Yeah, and it's like, if you want to talk current anime, it's like, One Punch Man is all the rage right now. And
that's very true.
It's all the rage. People are saying it's one of the best animes ever. I haven't seen it, but I personally don't think, even if I watched it, it's going to be as good as people are hyping it up to be. And that's just my opinion, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go and deliberately make fun of people who like One Punch Man.
Especially because, as you've just said, you haven't seen it yet. So you're saying, maybe I might not like it, but then, if you would watch it and then you might change that. But you're admitting that, that you're saying, oh, I haven't watched it, but I won't judge people who have watched it and who think the way they think. And I just want to clarify that the reason why that is applicable is because that's exactly what a lot of people that are criticizing Rwby do, is that they say, oh, Rwby isn't an anime and Rwby's trash compared to anime, blah, 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 blah. Right. But they haven't watched it. They haven't checked it out.
Yeah, and then there's either people that have done that and they haven't watched it, or there's people who judge a book by its cover, and the fact that I've seen people make arguments about, oh, so why don't you like Rwby? And they're like, they start listing off all these examples from the first volume, and then people will counter argue, it's like, oh, but what about this stuff in the second and third volume? And they are at a loss for words, so it's like...
So they haven't given it a chance to develop, is what you're saying.
And if I were to recommend Rwby, the first volume isn't that good. I mean, it's still good for what it is, but it's not the best. Don't let the slow start to the show detract from you watching it, because it really, each volume blows the other one out of the water tenfold. Volume 2 blew Volume 1 out of the water. Volume 3 sure as hell blows both of them out of the water.
So it's not about the short term, it's about the long term. There's a bigger story at play. So that goes back to how this has been hinted throughout the series, throughout the volumes, that there's something sinister going on in the backdrop. We're looking at this sort of I want to say almost speciesism, where you have the animal human hybrids. What are they called again?
Faunus.
The Faunus. You have the Faunus who have this history of this degradation, where they were told that they're less than human.
Right.
But you're dealing with serious my point is you're dealing with serious topics.
Like you're dealing with serious topics. You have like segregation, segregation is probably one of the big ones that comes to mind at the top of my head, because you have the segregation between humans and Faunus, and then you have terrorism also is a topic that's touched on in this volume.
So, I mean, as we mentioned in the summary, I mean, it starts lightly. It starts kind of happy-go-lucky, because you're looking at almost a stereotypical high school anime where you have these high school age children going into high school, doing things that high school children do. And, of course, oh yeah, it's a battle institution. They're teaching these students how to fight, but they're having fun with it. There doesn't seem to be anything serious, but then you're dealing with these serious issues. And they can be related to things that either are happening or have happened within the real world. And, I like personally when series, animes do that, where they touch on things things that are real. And as you've said, as the volumes have progressed, you're touching on it more and more.
Right. And the thing that I'm gonna make a bold statement here, so comment section, don't fucking murder me. I personally consider Rwby to be one of the best anime ever, simply because of the fact that unlike most anime, it doesn't stay stagnant with each and every series, or in the case of Rwby, they're called volumes. It doesn't stay stagnant in the fact that they don't try to improve upon themselves. Rwby is always evolving with each and every episode, each and every volume. You know, you had volume 1, which was very low budget, very underfunded, not a lot of time, a lot of time and effort went into it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of assets that they had to use. So you had a lot of flaws, like you had, instead of actual background people as extras, you had just black shadows. You didn't have as well good of texture in buildings. Then volume 2 comes along, you lose the shadow people are no more. There's actual background citizens that look like actual people. There's better texture to the buildings. Then you get to volume 3, the animation smoothens and the story picks up. So it's always evolving, and that's why I consider it one of the best animes ever, simply because of its willingness to adapt not only to technology but to current events in a way. Because like I said, it does touch. You touch on topics like segregation. You got terrorism. It touches on a lot of subjects that are still very current and significant in our day-to-day topics that we see on the news and stuff.
I mean, you even have, and this is just, you know, going off the top of my head, I remember there's a couple characters who deal with personal problems where, you know, they aren't exactly very self-confident. They aren't, you know, they aren't very secure about themselves. You know, you're dealing with not only real-world issues, but psychological issues, you know, as slight as that may be. I haven't seen anyone necessarily, like, insane or, you know, kind of, like, really just mentally unstable yet. But, I mean, you know, you're dealing with a lot of things that people deal with every day. And then not only that, I did want to say as well that I can kind of see where you're coming from, where Rwby does evolve a bit, because, and I want to say this as well, a lot of the times when it comes to, you know, regular anime, there's, you know, a certain theme that they set, and then they stick with that theme throughout the entire series. And in Rwby, it just seems like you said, to each volume something switches. You could start happy-go-lucky, and then it focuses more maybe on the characters in volume 2, and now in volume 3 it's getting more serious. So it's evolving as a series through volumes. And then not only that, but I've seen personally that Rwby does an excellent job of just constantly introducing characters that you can enjoy, like just whether they're heroes or villains. You know, there's always like some kind of new character. There's something new all the time that adds to the story. That, you know, and they're not just adding characters just to add characters. Like, oh, let's, you know, just come up with this and throw that in there. Like it is planned. There's clearly a planned, you know, set of events that's happening, but the way it's being executed, like you said, it's not about the short term. It's not about, oh, I watched volume 1, I think it's trash, so I'm just going to stop watching Rwby. It's about giving it that chance, and I tell people all the time about that too, in a way. And the way I'm going to relate this is to Gurren Lagann, where, and I want to say this too, because I've heard this, Monty Oum, when creating Rwby, he wanted the people on his team to watch Gurren Lagann as one of his sources that he wanted to model Rwby after. And Gurren Lagann has the same kind of thing where it takes a minute to pick up. And then even when it picks up, there's this certain part where things start to crash. And a lot of people that I talk to say, oh, there was a minute where I didn't want to watch anymore, where I was done because I didn't like the direction it was going. But then you continue watching and you see how great it is, how really masterfully done the series is. And I want to say that it's the same way with Rwby. Now, again, I've only seen up to Volume 2, but from what I'm hearing from you from Volume 3, that's what's happening, is that the series is taking a minute to pick up, and now it's starting to pick up. And not only is it starting to pick up, it's starting to crash, because you're saying some very foreboding, very ominous things. So it's starting to really go downhill, not in a production way where, oh, this is really bad now, this is a bad series. In a plot way, things are starting to happen. There's events unfolding that have been hinted at throughout the series. So with that being said, the main point I believe in this discussion is that we want to make sure that we drive home that there are people who believe, and basically, who really are fervent in the fact that Rwby is an anime, and that if you don't agree as such, then that's okay. Then that's really no big deal. It isn't for everyone. And then there's also the fact of that you need to give this series a chance to pick up before really giving it a judgment. So with all that being said, I do want to talk more with you about Monty Oum, because Monty was how we really kind of first connected. And I want to tell people, a very quick version of the story where we're both admins on the Facebook page for the Gurren Lagann Facebook page, which I have linked before in my Gurren Lagann video. If you're a Gurren Lagann fan, it's one of the best pages on Facebook that is Gurren Lagann related.
That's the only page you gotta do.
Yeah.
Fuck the other ones.
Well, don't say that. We're all Gurren Lagann fans,
I'm
but
joking.
I know you are.
You guys are great.
Yeah. But, Gurren Lagann fans are really great. We do. I will say this: we do have the most likes, and I don't mean to brag, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but we do have a lot of likes, and I'm very proud of that. But we met through that page because when Monty Oum passed away, a lot of the admins on that page, knew that Monty drew from Gurren Lagann. We knew that he took inspiration from Gurren Lagann, so we paid respect back, and we wanted to make it clear that, Monty Oum's presence was felt even in, the Gurren Lagann community, that he also valued. So, we met through Monty because we both posted about him, and then we connected through that. We started talking about, Monty and Rwby and Gurren Lagann, and that's kind of how we got to know each other. So, I just in general, is there anything specific you want to say about Monty? Is there anything,
Well, everything this is a cliche statement that a lot of people say, but about a lot of people, but everything Monty touched turned to gold.
Right.
There was never a moment where we ever doubted he'd be able to pull something off. And he was always one to take an abstract concept and make it into something people would love. And a huge example, before he even started working for Rooster Teeth, he was known simply for his about 10-minute, I think it's a 10-minute video, his 10-minute animation called Haloid, which, if you've never seen it, I'm sure you have at some point, because it's been pretty viral over the years since it came out. It's pretty much, you have Master Chief who's the main character of the Halo franchise, fighting against Samus Aran, who's the main character of the Metroid franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And it was you could tell it was aged because it was done back in, I believe 2006, but if you watched it at the time, it was very high tech, and everything was done by him. He animated, sound effects, everything. He was
So he was a real team player.
A character named Scarlet, who was voiced by an employee there named Gavin Free, and then you had another character introduced this volume who I've told you about, Joe, and who you flipped the fuck out over, to put it lightly. You had Neon, and her last name is Neon Cat, so it's based off Neon Cat. But
that's funny.
Story. That's a whole other story. That's voiced by a girl named Meg Turney, and she also works there. And the story pretty much is I believe it was Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. I want to say New York Comic-Con. They both had met a month prior at a party, and they both liked each other, but neither one knew it. And Monty knew that they both liked each other, so he pretty much told Meg Turney that, why don't you take a walk with me around the convention? And Meg kind of told him, they talked about it, and then he pretty much said, well, why don't you ask him out? And she's like, oh, no, he probably doesn't like me, the cliche thing. And then they come back to where Gavin is at the booth, and he was eating a sandwich, and Monty simply said, hey, Gavin, why don't you go take Meg for a walk? And he's like, okay. They've been together for the last 3 years, and so he was kind of a matchmaker too.
So he really valued his team. Like, his team wasn't just his production team; that was like his family. It was
his family away from his family.
And I do remember as well. I'm sorry.
He lived at the office. Back when they're old, that's not a statement that it's a statement a lot of people use, but when it comes to Monty, it's quite literally. Back when they're at their old studio, they had a lot of the employees stayed at, there's an apartment complex right across the street from them, so a lot of the employees lived there because it makes sense to live right across the street from work. Monty had an apartment there, but he didn't have any furniture in it because he spent so much time in his office at the studio that he pretty much lived there. He had a bed there and everything, and he would be animating late into the night, and then when he would get tired, 5-minute micro nap. All right, back to work.
So he was a real workaholic.
He was, and it was his system, and it worked. And it doesn't seem like it would work, but it definitely worked for him.
Right.
It's a work ethic I've somewhat taken on. I'm not the whole, I can't do micro naps. I don't know how that's a thing. But
Me neither.
I definitely try to work hard as he did, and he always got his inspiration from other sources. So one of the things he always emphasized is, if you want to make something, just watch stuff. Take note of everything that's around you and turn it into something beautiful.
Wow. So to kind of peter this off and kind of bring this discussion to a conclusion, you have told me before that you managed to go to the Rooster Teeth Expo after Monty passed away, and that there was actually a sort of like a memorial, to him there.
There was a memorial there.
So just real quick, like, just to pay our respects to him, how was that, that experience for you? As a fan, and as someone who he inspired.
It was, I never got to meet Monty I never got the opportunity to meet him. So that was, when I found out he passed, that was kind of hard on me, because it was someone I idolized so much, and I was gonna go. And it was a couple months before I was set to go to the convention, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna finally meet him. That's gonna be fucking awesome. And then the news dropped, and it really hurt, but I still went. And then that was literally the first 2 things I did when I got there. I went to the Rooster panel, which was the very first event at the convention, and then right after that, I went straight to the memorial. And normally it's like, oh, if a memorial, but when it's in a convention setting, it's really different because you have the lively convention floor and all that, but then you step into the memorial and it's just a completely different mood change. It's silent. People, you didn't really talk much in it. You just appreciated the work that he did. You paid your respects. You didn't go there to chat. You went there for one specific reason, to pay your respects.
Okay, well, so that's very informational, and it's really a great look into the mind of, your typical, I don't want to say typical, but I mean at the same time, it's just fans of Rooster Teeth, fans of Monty, people who Monty have inspired over his life, not only, when it comes to his team, but the people who looked up to him as an example, as a creator, so. And with that being said, I would like to kind of just throw this out there. You have told me that you do have a little creation that you're working on, and
Yeah, it's the little thing. It's the little thing.
It's just a little thing, but
It's just a little. It's nothing important. I mean.
But and that was heavily inspired by Monty.
Right.
Okay, so he's really helped to push a lot of people, and he deserves every bit of respect he's gotten by far.
He does, literally.
So with that being said, I want to thank you for coming on, Mike. Thanks for taking the time out. It was a really long setup process to get this all set up, but it was worth it, and it was a great talk, and it was great to have you on.
I appreciate you for having me.
And I want to drive this home again, as I say with every video. Thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share on social media if you like any of my content. But more importantly, with this series, please check out the series if it sounds at all interesting. If
I'm sure there'll be links in the description.
Oh yeah, I'll throw some links down in the description for sure to Rooster Teeth's page. Rwby's on there. Please check it out, but remember, please give it a chance. Let it develop a little bit. But other than that, let it grow on you. And once it grows on you, though, it's awesome. So, thanks again for watching, guys. See ya.